Welcome, welcome, welcome to You've Championed Yourself. Who Are You podcast. I'm Chris Ferguson, your host. It has always been a dream of mine to showcase ordinary people doing extraordinary things in their daily lives. They've taken their dreams, their ideas, and turned it into their reality. As they reach beyond their personal struggles, pains, traumas, where so many people give up and lose hope, there are those few who can walk through their obstacles and their challenges, not knowing where it's going to take them. They just trust themselves enough not to give up. Do the follow through in their personal life, their career, and in relationships. This is what I call a champion. Today, I have an amazing lady here today. Her name's Dawn Rashard. She's so many different things, but she's just an amazing light in humanity. And that's exactly how I want to introduce her because she does so many things for people and she's such of service to others. Let's welcome Dawn to the podcast.
Thank you, Chris.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm just reflecting your light back to you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. In my podcast, I so have wanted all my life to showcase people who do extraordinary things in their everyday.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your backstory, how you went from where you were to what got you to where you are now?
Yeah, it's always a journey, right? I came from a beautiful, beautiful family. My parents have been married for almost 59 years now, and they had alcoholic grandparents. So they had a lot of chaos and drama in their families of origin, but they also had a lot of love. And so they decided that for our own family, my dad was in the military, so we moved every 3 years, and they wanted to create this really loving, peaceful, supportive family for us where we could express ourselves openly and honestly. We had open communication. We talked about our emotions, which is shocking, because most people are like so shut down. But we were a family of huggers and lovers and talkers, and we'd get heated and stuff. But there was always this sense of safety and security, like you always have my back. I know that about you. So when I got married, I married someone who I felt like we had this same sort of relationship and same kind of connection. But unfortunately, he had a lot of childhood trauma that he carried with him, which many of us do. And so in the meantime, I knew that I wanted to go back to school and become a counselor, therapist, because I was always the person that my friends would come to and say, hey, what about my boyfriend? Or what should I do with my parents? I don't know what to do. And my mom was a math teacher, but she was also, she should have been the school counselor. So she should have been because she was. And so I knew that I needed to go back to school. So throughout the course of our marriage, we had a lot of struggles. We had a lot of communication issues. We had a lot of emotional blocks. And I went to school. I got my license, and I had my private practice. And he and I had to go to therapy because we were just struggling so much. And we had 3 kids, 3 amazing kids, and I also have had a career in the airline. And so my life has always been juggling. And I think that he thought that once we had kids, I would quit everything and just stay home with my kids.
Oh,
I said, I don't know where you got that idea from, because I said that I would never be a 24/7 mom. I just know that about myself, that maybe I'm a little restless, probably because we moved around a lot. So I'm just used to coming and going. So anyways, we had a lot of challenges in our marriage. And after 27 years, a lot of therapy, I just decided I couldn't stay on the emotional roller coaster. I knew that I had to take responsibility for for the ways that I was contributing to not a loving relationship. So I had to find my own peace. I had to create my own sense of joy and happiness. And I was tired of being mistreated. I was
Mm.
tired of being mistreated, even though I still love him. I got divorced 2 years ago after 27 years of marriage. I still love the guy. I mean, I spent the entirety of my adult life with this man, and he's the father of my children.
Mhm.
But I decided I needed to value myself more
Mhm.
than I valued my marriage. And so sadly, sadly, but sadly, because it wasn't my hope and dream to get divorced,
Mhm.
but it has been the greatest blessing. And that I knew how much I struggled, even with my professional education, even with the fact that I helped lots of couples heal their marriages, but I could not fix my own. And I recognized that both people have to show up with a sense of wholeness and taking
Yes.
care of their own emotional stuff. I mean, you
Mm.
can be a supportive person, you can be the support system for your other person, whether it's your partner or family member or friend, but the other person also has to take responsibility for their stuff. And if they're not doing that, and if it's causing a lot of conflict and breakdowns and disconnection in your relationship,
Mhm.
then the relationship doesn't have a solid foundation to build itself upon. So that's why I started my podcast. That's why I speak all the time, because of the lessons that I learned about what love and intimacy is. And it
Mhm.
starts with yourself.
Well, I love that you go on foundations because I do also. I had just the opposite of life growing up,
Yeah, I
but
know
we came to the same
you've
place.
had a lot of challenges in your life.
So
I know.
exactly, but the fact was is I never allowed it to define me.
Right.
And I think that's the difference because you can carry the baggage. I have family members who have carried their baggage.
Oh yeah.
I realized that
Like
it
a
wasn't
badge of honor.
I realized it wasn't my baggage to carry. It wasn't
Yeah.
for me. It was what was happening around me.
Right.
And at a time I had no control over my life.
Right.
And when you have that at an 8-year-old age, that wise wisdom and those spirit guides, guiding you, you're not going to go wrong.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk to you about true intimacy. Most people think of intimacy as a sexual act, and it's
Right.
not.
Intimacy
It's
is
not.
sex. It's like, well, there can be
No.
lots of sex with zero intimacy.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's not intimacy when you talk about it, but explain to my audience what true intimacy is.
I often say that intimacy is into me see. And when you define it in that way, you say, "Oh my gosh, who am I?
Mhm.
Who am I? What's going on inside my mind? What's going on inside my heart? What am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling connected or disconnected from my spirit, God creator source?" And so when you recognize that intimacy starts with this depth of understanding of who you are and where you came from and the things that you've learned and how you want to grow and evolve, that's what excuse me, that's what allows you to express that to another. And the more transparent that you are, the more able you are to create a true connection with somebody else. Because the when you when you hide and pretend, which is what intimacy is not, and many of us go through our entire lives hiding and pretending. I know I did in my marriage for a long time. People, I would be crying in my house. I'm so sad. I feel heartbroken. I feel so empty and lonely. And I would have to take my kids to soccer. And everybody would say, "Hey Dawn, how's it going?" "Oh, I'm fine, great. How are you?" And you just pretend out in the world. We wear these masks. And
Mhm.
these masks are what create these barriers to true intimacy. And you don't have to be completely transparent with every single person that you meet. I mean, it's a matter of safety, it's a matter of trust, it's a matter of, do I feel secure expressing myself in this environment? but especially for the people that you care about, especially for the people who love you and that you love them, the best way to maintain and build beautiful, meaningful relationships is to express the truth of who you are and allow the other to express the truth of who they are, because that leads to greater understanding, that leads to greater sense of connection, that leads to a greater sense of compassion and vulnerability and openness and just real heart.
I love that, because intimacy is one thing, but to be truly vulnerable in your life and be able to communicate it. And I used to
Right.
think communication was the key of everything. And it's not, it's how people comprehend it,
Yeah.
because they're hearing it from their perspective, not
Right.
yours. They're
Right.
hearing it from their understanding, their experiences, not yours. So when speaking something, if you're giving out labeling and judgments and assumptions, they're not connecting. And
Right.
so it's when you're truly vulnerable. Again, I love the fact that you said you accepted your responsibility and accountability in your part of your marriage. And that's the key. That is the true key of it,
It is.
is going within, like you said, and reflecting.
Yes. And this is the interesting thing, because I think so many people think I have to be with this person and we have to feel close all the time. And that's not really realistic. I think that it's part of life, part of our life's journey is this sort of wave of I feel a little better, I feel a little worse, I feel a little bit more connected, I feel a little bit more distant. And there's a real need for all of us to have both this sense of freedom. I can be who I want, I can make the choices that I want, I can speak my truth. And then there's also this need for connection and intimacy and a feeling of closeness and community. And I think so many times when we're in relationships, we think that it's either or, it's black and white, and it's not. And so it's not a problem to be solved. It's a situation to be managed, because often two people in relationship, one person says, "Oh, honey, I really want to connect to you right now," and the other one says, I really need my space right now." And you say, "Wait a second." But and so you have to figure out how to honor where both people are in the moment, have some compassion and some understanding, and it's really about these open discussions of what's going on for me and how can I understand you better, and then how can we create situations or choices in our life that honor both, where both people feel good about the outcome.
I agree. I agree, because again, now going into the harmonization of the divine masculine and divine feminine, most people don't realize you have both of those in you, regardless of your sex. We
Right.
both have male and female in us. However, it's how we connect and harmonize with both the masculine and the feminine that we get rid of the junk, we get rid of the chaos, we get rid of all the overthinking and doubting, because that's the conflict, isn't it? Isn't it the understanding of both? Well, I'm a male and I'm going to be dominant. Okay. But what about the inner female in
How's
you?
that working? How's that working for you?
Exactly. So let's talk about the divine feminine and the divine masculine, because most people think, well, I'm a male, that's my divine masculine. No, but you also have a feminine side to you, and that's how you have your tenderness, your lovingness, your caring. And when you can harmonize that, you master yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is really fascinating, Chris, because I think that we only say divine feminine and divine masculine because we don't have the language, because they're not feminine traits and they're not masculine traits. Excuse me. They are human qualities. So there aren't, oh, tenderness and caring and kindness and concern is feminine, and power and strength and stability is masculine. their human qualities. And just like I was talking, how we ebb and flow in our lives, we ebb and flow between these energies. And I hope ultimately, and someday, that we will not even say masculine and feminine, because it's just like the light and the sun and the dark and the moon are all part of the same 24 hours. These masculine and feminine energies are all part of the same human. And so because I think, oh, feminine, nurturing, community, caring. But then if you think of a lioness who is protecting her child, her baby lion cub,
yes,
that's feminine, right?
Yeah.
This is the sense of protection. And so I hope that we recognize that we all have these aspects within ourselves. And I think why we delineate so much is because the typical feminine qualities have been devalued. Women have been devalued for lifetimes and centuries. And so that's why boys are taught, man up, don't be a pussy, all these degrading comments about women. And because, in my opinion, because they're disconnected from that part of themselves. And so this is what our light is shining on. This is what our work, this is why we are showing up and doing this work and having our own spiritual awakenings to recognize that we disconnect ourselves from ourselves. We disconnect these certain aspects of ourselves because we judge them and we criticize them, we blame them, we feel ashamed about them. And so all of our healing journey is to recover these lost aspects of ourself so that we can reintegrate the fullness of who we are and connect that to our God creator source so that we show up in our wholeness, which I say is our holiness.
I love that. I've always been that tomboy. So, when you're that tomboy, you're that, when you're assertive, you're aggressive. When you're in upper management, you're the bee. Because they don't want to say, well, you know what you're doing. You have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the education to go behind it, that you have more experiences. That's why you're in that position. It's because as a female, you're not supposed to be able to do those things. And I think
according to whom?
Well, I also think it's the labeling and it's the canceling of people that they do. I still can't figure out how you cancel a person, because they're a human being. And no matter what I think of them or how they think of themselves, it is more about what I think of me, because I could care less what anybody else thinks of me. It's how I think of myself. What other people think of me is really none of my business. Because it has nothing to do with me. But when people label people, it's actually a reflection of themselves.
As soon as you said they cancel people, I thought because they cancel themselves.
That's how I see it, because the fact is if you don't like what other people are doing, but you're doing the same thing, okay. If you don't like the way they think, well, but you're thinking similar than that, So it is that reflection. So I just love the fact that you call it real love. I'm wondering if I'm calling it unconditional love, which is the same thing.
It's the same thing. I just said real love because so many people are so confused about unconditional love, because they say, well, that just means that I accept everything. And I tolerate everything and I excuse everything. And that's not what love is. Love is a choice. Love is an energy. Love is a way of being. And it's a continual journey. We were created this pure, perfect, whole and complete sweet being when we were born,
Mhm.
able to feel and sense and express everything that's going on within us. And we were born with pure potential. And so many times we have these experiences in our life that cause us to doubt that, which is why I so honor your journey, Chris, because every time I hear your story, I think you are one freaking strong, resilient, amazing human being. So,
Thank you. I
yeah.
thank you. I'm not even sure, again, like we were talking the other night in Clubhouse. Um, I react
Hmm.
that quick. I just
Yeah.
react. I don't have
That
any regrets. I don't
well,
have any forethought. I just
that
react.
was your mechanism that you had to figure out how to do that as a kid.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
didn't have a choice. It was
Yep.
either survive or not survive. Those were the
Exactly.
options. I didn't have anything
Exactly.
else. However,
Exactly.
I somebody asked me before, they said, "Would you change anything in your life?"
Mm,
And I said, "No, I wouldn't, because it's made me who I am and brought me to this point in reality that my foundation is so strong, it's unwavering.
mm.
And not many people can say that in their lives."
You're very, very right, Chris.
So all of those issues, all of those traumas, those pains, those near-death experiences, those conversations, those cursing out the creator. I mean, all of those, all of those things that I did. I mean, I was that kid.
Right.
And it was like, okay, I'm not done with you yet. That's all he kept saying to me as he palm pumped me out of heaven, because it's like I refuse to leave. I'm like one of these rebellious ones. I'm not leaving, creator. You can't make me. Boom, you're gone. So it's kind of funny. But
But
unconditional love, I have the
that's the
perfect,
thing.
perfect response for unconditional love.
Go ahead.
And that was when my brother was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh,
I was
oh, I'm so
20.
sorry.
I was 20. He was 23.
That's
He
awful.
actually was a street kid, just like I was. He was changing his life. He's going back to school. He had found his form of his higher power. And he was having an engagement party for his best friend and his fiance at his
Mhm.
house. And this guy, when my brother was walking his best friend out and his fiance out after the party, a drunk driver in Brownsville, Texas, went over the curbing. They didn't have any fencing and cut through
Oh.
my brother's yard and hit all three of them.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
It
I'm
was
so
horrible. But the thing was,
sorry.
my brother was 6'6" and weighed 248 pounds, and he knocked him 108 feet from impact.
Oh my gosh.
And my brother was the
Oh,
only one that died, but the other two had
oh,
such physical injuries. The worst part about this is that this guy's family helped him cover it up. And
oh,
he's never been held accountable or responsible for his act of killing a man and harming two other people that changed their lives. They were never married
that's awful.
because of it.
That's so
And I was
awful.
20. I just had a little girl, and I'm thinking, like, please don't tell me his name, don't tell me where he lives, don't tell me what he drives, don't tell me anything, because I'd be that street kid and avenge his death.
Wow. Yeah.
And I
Yeah. I can
recognized that.
understand.
I mean,
Yep.
I wanted to. At first, I'm like,
Yeah. Of
I'm going
course.
to Brownsville. I'm going to
Of
Brownsville. I'm
course.
going to find this man, and he's going to be held accountable.
Of
And as
course.
I picked up my 1-year-old daughter, I'm like, if I do that, I'm abandoning her like I was abandoned. And that's what hit my heart.
Wow.
And so at that moment, it was like, I can't do that to her.
Right.
I can't do that. And that's when it took a while to get over the anger of this man killing my brother. But
Of
that was the
course.
baggage I was carrying. And I'm like, what am I doing to myself? It's changing who I am and how I am.
How long did you carry that with you?
Probably about 3 years.
Hmm.
And so I finally said, I can't live this way. So I had to understand that this man is a human being. That did bad things.
Right.
I'm not excusing his bad behavior by any means,
Right.
but I have to see him as a human being with an addiction that you're going out and drinking and killing people.
So sad.
It is, but it helped teach me unconditional love,
Hmm.
because I had to forgive myself for the thoughts and the feelings I had against him to then be able to forgive him for his act.
Right.
So when we talk about real love or unconditional love, that's what it is. It's not making excuses. It's really coming to that inner core of you and saying, wow, if I react, how is this going to affect my life? How is
Mhm.
it going to affect my family's life? How is it going to affect everybody else's life? So,
And how is holding on to the anger and resentment?
my God, it was heavy, heavy. It was heavy.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I just wanted to do that. But I want to
When
talk to
when
you.
when you forgive somebody else, it's
Mhm,
not for them. It's for
mhm,
you to release that emotional hold, because when you hold on to that anger and resentment, you've
mhm,
created this prison for yourself where you feel trapped and heavy and weighed down. And then when you forgive, and I don't actually believe it's one and it's done.
mhm.
I
Oh, I
think
agree.
sometimes it pops up and you have to forgive again and again and again.
Mhm.
But when you do that, I have another thought actually. When you do that, you set yourself free. I have a friend of mine that we have talked about this topic of forgiveness many, many times. And she came from a very traumatic childhood as well. And she says, Dawn, actually, there's nothing to forgive because we're all one. We're all
Mhm,
one. And
mhm,
we're all playing these different roles in helping all of us learn more love.
mm,
And so the part that they played, and I don't know if this is true or not,
mhm,
but the people who hurt you the worst, from her perspective, are the souls that said, I agree to hurt so that they can learn this valuable lesson to return to the source of love.
mm,
And I thought about that in my own marriage, like, okay, on a soul level, he agreed to help me learn to love myself even more
mhm,
and to have more compassion for him.
mhm,
So it's very complex and confusing, and I don't
mhm.
have the answers, but
I don't
these
either.
are
It just
really beautiful questions.
it is because it's how you process it. I think
Mhm.
is the realism in it. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
There's people that still have anger and hate over things that happen in their lives and they've never come to peace
40,
with it.
50, 60, 70, 80 years
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so when it depends on you individually, but it was because of my previous experiences that I had to make a different choice
Right.
because it was connecting the abandonment that I
Uh-huh.
vowed I would never do to my child what was done
Right.
to me,
Right.
and that's what snapped me out of some of that anger.
Well, and I think that so many times, Chris, these are the themes that people hang on to. That sense of abandonment, the feelings of loneliness, the feelings of disconnection, the feelings of being insignificant in the world,
Mm,
and that's why we need to have. Well, we don't need. Yes, we need to, but many people don't. But in order to live a more meaningful and heartfelt and full life where you honor who you are and what your experiences are and how you got to this place is developing that sense of compassion and developing that sense of taking these experiences and learning and growing and evolving from them.
mhm,
Where am I not being compassionate? Where am I not being understanding? Where am I not being accepting? Where am I not being forgiving? Starting with yourself and then
mhm.
extending that grace to other people.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I truly do. But I want to talk about how you help to heal people through their hearts.
I I don't know. Sometimes I really don't know. Uh, but I I think I feel and I try to lead with my heart. I
Mm,
try to see people through their hearts. I've I've also worked for the airline for 30 years, over 30 years, and I've connected with thousands of people all over the world. And there are plenty of my colleagues that a lot of other people don't like. they have problems with. So and so such a jerk. So and so she's crazy. I mean, all these different labels that we use on other people. And was the kid. I was the kid on the playground. If somebody was by themselves, and maybe because I moved and I felt alone a lot, I had a lot of compassion. And so I would always walk over and say, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on?" Try to help the other person not feel so alone, um, or not feel so lonely in their aloneness. And so I try to see people with their heart. I try to dig, like, what's the part of the story that I can connect to, that I can relate to, because we all have these experiences of being angry, being rageful, feeling disrespected, feeling alone, feeling abandoned, and feeling vulnerable, not wanting to hide. And so I help people get to the heart of all of that, what's going on within them, the ways that they experience those lower vibration feelings, the ways that they feel disconnected and insignificant and not valued or worthy of being in communion or worthy of receiving love, because we are all worthy of receiving love. We were all built for connection, starting in utero with the umbilical cord. We were connected even before we were born. I believe we are connected to our God creator source, which is within us. It is us.
Yes.
And so I try. I don't always do it successfully, but I do try to be kind and have compassion for people and really connect to their heart and soul. And that's how we heal ourselves, and that's how we heal each other, so that we all recognize our union and unity.
Well, and also there's one thing that you said that, but you didn't add, was that we're all human. We're all flawed. We
Yep.
all make bad mistakes. We all
Yep.
do things that we're ashamed of.
Yeah.
But when you stay in the past and you don't allow yourself to realize you were surviving, if you're not doing it anymore, why are you holding that feeling on you? Why are you holding that emotion in you? Because you've learned and you've moved on, and I say it, if you want to be better, you have to do better. And that's a choice.
And I would add, if you want to do better, love more.
And I agree with that. But like for me, Dawn, I didn't know love. I didn't know what true love was. I didn't know what love was. I was those.
But did you care about people?
As a child, no. Because of all of my experiences, I was just trying to be able to survive the day, to survive the night. I didn't care about myself. How could I care about anybody else? When you truly think about it.
So when did you start caring for other people?
When I had my child.
Yeah, your kids are your greatest gift. Really.
Well, it was actually the first thing to know that I created this being, and oh my gosh, I'm not going to have her experience my life experiences.
Right.
And so in me, it was always that, no, she's not going to know this. No, she's not going to know this experience, not through me. She's not going to feel unwanted, unloved, unaccepted, throwaway. She's not going to know those things from me.
Wow.
She may learn them from a boyfriend or a crush or somebody else, but she's not going to learn them from me.
Wow.
And that's when I learned love, because I had to change my way of thinking, my understanding in life. And it was because of my brother that I got into law enforcement.
Wow.
Because of the injustices.
Wow.
And so with
like
that,
like fighting for the underdog.
It truly is. I was the underdog. I was that underdog. I was so far beyond the tracks underdog,
right,
that, I had to find my way, and I had to make different choices. And it was hard. It's hard doing the right thing.
Yeah.
When so many other options are easier.
Well, so many options are easier in the short term, but you have to consider what are the long understanding effects and consequences, which is one thing that I wanted to teach my kids. You are responsible, excuse me, of how you impact people.
Mhm.
What you say, how you show up, how you react, how you respond, that creates a ripple effect. Your energy that you carry creates this ripple effect. And so, how are you taking responsibility for how you are showing up and how you are impacting people? And you're either doing that with an energy of love and
Mhm.
care and kindness or concern, or not.
Mhm. But as a kid, I didn't have it. I
Yeah.
didn't have it. I didn't start anything, but I didn't walk away from anything.
Mm,
I was one of those kids that, I mean, even the boys were concerned because if
mm.
I had a boy
You're
challenge me,
tough.
well, it's not because I wanted to, it's I had to be.
Uh-huh.
That was my life. It's funny you say you were tough, that when I worked at this school, it was 80% Black, 20% Hispanic, and 0.05 white.
Mm,
And the kids would call me a cracker.
mm-hmm.
And I said, well, guys, and you have to remember, this is back in the early 2000s, 99, 2000. I was like, if you're going to call me a cracker, at least identify the type of cracker I am, because there's Ritz crackers, there's, Triscuits, there's all these different kind of crackers. I want to know what season and flavoring I am. If you're going to label me, let's at least figure this out. And they would be like, oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. But it would just
That's
show,
hilarious. That's
well,
hilarious.
I'm just showing them how if you label somebody, you need to at least tell them what they are, because you're labeling me and you don't know who I am.
That's so
But when I
funny.
started jumping in, and I'm the only female jumping into a gang fight of boys
Oh, wow.
and pitching them apart,
Wow.
it was like I had a teacher tell me, came into my office one day and said, "You're one of the toughest women I've ever met." I said, "Oh, okay, I think." And she says, "Well, you're the only one." She goes, "There's only one person on this campus that could take me out." And I said, "Oh, really? Who's that?" She goes, "You." And I was like, "Oh, you're right. What was I going to say? What was I going to say? You know?" But none of these people knew my background,
Right.
because I didn't want them to see me as weak. Because
Right.
when kids, and see, kids know when you're messing with them, and they know when you're faking it and you're not being sincere. They know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You don't have to say nothing to them. They know.
Exactly. They feel the energy.
Oh, they
Mm-hmm.
do. However, it was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Say, "Oh, are you sure? I'm sure you can't beat me up. Do you want to meet me after school and let's find out?" I mean, come on, let's get beyond this kind of junk. And this was an adult. So if
Wow.
adults are thinking this way, it's no wonder kids are thinking this way.
Right. Right. Right.
So, but I just love that. But I want to talk about first your public speaking that you do. Where do you speak, other than, I mean, you have your podcast. What's the name of your
Mm-hmm.
podcast?
The podcast is called Wake Up to Real Love.
Ah,
Because I kept thinking, well, I want to help people create more conscious love, taking more responsibility for the ways they show up in love, but that's sort of ethereal and whatever. So that's why I said real love. Real love. Wake up to real
mhm,
love. And people can find it on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
And I am getting ready to relaunch actually in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited because I paused it at the beginning of this year. I had published about 60 episodes in a year and a half. And then I just got overwhelmed with everything else that was going on in my life. And so I paused it, but it's a beautiful, for me, it, I share people's stories of their struggles and triumphs in love, sex,
Mm,
and relationships, along with expert advice to create more conscious connections. So I have a lot of expert guests give their techniques and tools and perspectives about how to create more love and intimacy and authentic connections in the world. So, and the mantra of the podcast is the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself,
it's
because it
true.
all starts from there. Yeah.
It's so true.
So I love the podcast. I love having conversations like you and I are having, and I want people to feel loved and accepted no matter what traumatic experiences they've had in their life. We all deserve love, compassion, acceptance, and to feel worthy of being loved. So that's my podcast. I love it. And I hope that you subscribe and write me some reviews. I'd love to hear some feedback. But the other place, I was the weird kid that always volunteered. Oh, I'll do an oral book report. And people are like, what? Are you crazy? Like, you are a total geek, Dawn. I said, well, I don't know. I like to speak. And I did these like speaking competitions and I ran for office and loved getting on stage and speaking. And I'm a dancer. So I've been on stage my entire life, more or less. But last year I spoke in various groups on Facebook and social media, and I've done a few summits, and Clubhouse, this amazing app of social audio rooms. I've been speaking like a crazy woman. My kids are said, Mom, you're always on there. You're always on there. Well, I want to share. I want to teach. I want to serve. I want to help elevate the consciousness of the world. I want to give more love and share more love. And so I'm in these beautiful generally heart-centered rooms, sharing love, helping people recognize that their struggles and their things that they go through are nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of our humanity. It's part of our human experience. And I feel like shame can only hide in the dark when we don't talk about it, when we don't express it. Just like people never talked about addiction or depression or anxiety or betrayal or suicidal ideation or all of the things that now people are becoming more comfortable or more willing to speak about. Because I feel like the more that we share our stories, the more permission we give for other people to come out of hiding. And so, yeah, it's really, really important. I feel like these types of conversations are it's the Great Awakening. It's the Great Awakening to recognize we're all in this together. We all experience the same emotions, even though our situations and experiences are different. We all feel these senses of abandonment and loneliness. They're part of the human condition. And yet all of us want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. We want to be accepted and valued as a vital part of the community, meaning the world.
Right.
So,
or just by anybody.
By anybody, right.
So it doesn't have to be like somebody
you.
big wig or anything else like that. It's just by anybody.
It could be you going to the grocery store and the checker who's just been like, check. If you say, oh, I really love your hair. How did you do that? Or, oh, those are, you have such a nice voice, or whatever it is, this sense of kindness and compassion where you're really just giving from your heart.
I love that. I also think that society has lessened its constraints on many things, because I was a product of what society norms said a single mom couldn't raise 6 kids. And so the Catholic Church says, oh, well, we'll help you. And she agreed to walk away.
Oh, wow.
So those were the society norms back in those times. In the 70s, when we started having all this evolution and changing and people breaking free, the start of it, because most people don't realize that it took 26,000 years to get to this age of Aquarius.
Wow.
Right now, where the planets are aligned. It's taken Pluto and Saturn 26 years to realign. That's how slow moving they are. And most people don't think astrology has anything to do with what happens to us, but it does. And so this is why now, when you said the Great Awakening, we're out of the Piscean age, and we are now in where the Piscean age was power, control, greed, harm.
All the more masculine, oppressive.
Well, I wasn't even going to say masculine. It was just the heavier energy.
Right.
And now we're getting into more humanity. We're going to still have some issues. It's going to take it a little bit to get through it.
Right.
But when we start understanding and saying, you know what, it's like I explained to kids. Under the age of 18, you are not legally responsible for what happens to you by law.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have such a lenient law on juveniles, with an exception of those that overstep even the extremeness.
Yeah.
However, we want those that's that rite of passage, I guess is the way to put it, that we want you to make better choices. We want you to learn
Right.
and help
Right.
you to choose better.
Right.
And then but then it's harsh because right at 18 it's boom. But as a counselor, you know that your brain isn't done growing till you're 24 years of age.
Exactly.
And so you're still, okay, you're going to do some mess ups and you're going to do some stupid stuff. And it's like, the excuse isn't, well, my brain's still growing. It's that I'm still not connecting.
Right.
So as we understand that, I did an interview the other day and on a podcast, and this parent asked me, she goes, my daughter said that there's the earth has a heartbeat. I said, yes, it does. She says, where is it? And I told her, she goes, it's in my own country. I didn't even know that.
Where is it?
It's in Strasbourg, Tor, UK. Part of it is.
Huh.
The other half of that heartbeat is in Maui, Hawaii.
Oh, that's why you're going to Maui.
But Maui is also a gatekeeper to the root chakra of Mount Shasta.
Oh, interesting.
So it's all that energy. You know how you have the roads of the highways? They're called ley lines, energy lines in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like roadways of energy running between different vortex points.
Wow.
And most people don't realize that, a lot of people know about the chakras in their bodies, but they don't realize the earth also has the same chakras. So that's why what I'm doing is so important, because so many people don't think of it that way. So I'm excited about that. But in everything that we do, this is now the time of humanity, to get back to what we were talking about, as far as allowing ourselves to understand that we're harder on ourselves than anything life can put us through in our own mind. And I just keep telling people, disassociate your emotions from that experience, because that experience, once it becomes a lesson, you can move on.
Right.
You can step forward. You can allow yourself to realize that, wow, it was tough. I don't know how I survived, but if you're here right now with us right now, this moment, you're 100% at surviving. You are a success.
Mm-hmm.
And when you flip that switch from that negative inner chatter to the positive inner chatter,
right,
your life blooms.
Well, and I would say, Chris, don't dissociate from your emotions. Be in your emotions in the moment. Be a curious observer. What is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to show me? What am I supposed to learn from this? And allow them to flow through you. Because even if you think, well, I'm really angry right now, how long does that last? It doesn't last 24 hours a day. I mean, your emotions, again, it's like this flow. And so if you allow them to flow through you and learn how to observe them and learn from them and express them in healthy and constructive ways, for example, writing or dancing or speaking or building something or running around the block. I mean, they're all ways that you can move your body and expend some of this emotional energy. And when you process and you learn, then and you stay in the present moment, because many times we hold on to these emotions from the past.
That's when, right? I say you disassociate yourself from those past emotions, because that's what people hang on as baggage.
It's staying in this present moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's staying in this present moment and saying, how can I grow and evolve and become a better version because of this experience, because of these emotions, because of what I am learning in this moment. And that's the allowance and the acceptance and that love for what is.
I agree, but you've got to get to that point.
Yeah.
If you're still looking back and hanging on to all this back here,
don't look in the rear view mirror. Look through the front window.
That's why I say disassociate yourself from the past. Once you've been through it, once you've dealt with those emotions, disassociate those emotions. That you can't change them. You can't change anything about it. Why are you holding on?
Right.
So disassociate it from there and move forward, because when you're hanging on to the past, you're not allowing yourself to be present. You're not allowing yourself to be in the moment, because you're thinking about the woulda, coulda, shouldas you did back then that are not working for you now. So you don't see the change.
And that's what keeps you in this sense of heaviness and weighed down and depression or anxiety or whatever. And when you let that go, like you're looking in the rearview mirror, driving down the highway, you can't go back. I mean, you could get off and turn around and go back, but you say, bye, bye. I'm continuing to move my life in this forward direction.
Yes.
And when you do that, the freedom you feel, the peace you feel, the joy you feel, the love you feel, the appreciation you feel. I appreciate where I came from, and I'm still making my way. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because you feel this sense of balance and alignment with all these different aspects of yourself. And so you feel more whole and complete.
Yes. Yes, I agree. But like I said, when I was talking about the past, it is, people get stuck there and it's like, oh my gosh. So that's why I tell them, if you're under 18, you literally are not legally responsible for it. But at 18, that cutoff date, all of a sudden now you have to be accountable, responsible.
Right.
So let's start teaching our kids, no, you got to be accountable before you're 18.
Right.
It's just making better choices of what you want for your future.
Right. Right. Exactly. Is this choice going to help you get to where you want to be? How do you envision yourself tomorrow and the next day, a year from now, 5 years from now? And this is what I say to my kids, because I had the same experience in the midst of my marital chaos and hurt and heartache. I did not even recognize myself. I said, who is this woman that I've become? She's ugly. She's depressed. She's, feeling terrible about herself. And when you let go of all that stuff, then you get back to the truth of who you are, this beautiful, magical, creative, expressive, expansive human. You're living this human experience, but you're a soul having a human experience. You have a huge heart. And when you connect to all of that, that's when you can live this amazing, incredible, beautiful life and have these connections like you and I are having right now.
And Dawn, I have to say, I honor you for being here. I was excited that you were coming, because
me too.
We have had several conversations before now, and I just love your mindset, and I just love your understanding of life. And I understand, we all go through things, but it's how we step out of them and step up for ourselves that we really show up. And I just love the way that you express it. For my listening audience, can you give them 3 tips on how they can make their life easier today for themselves?
Love more, love more, love more.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, three tips. It's like, oh, well, you should communicate more openly and honestly.
No.
For me, the basis comes to, it comes from this heart-centered space of seeing with your heart, really your intentions and your compassion, your sense of how you treat people how you want to be treated. I mean, it's the golden rule, and it really is about love, loving yourself, loving another, and creating this beautiful human experience for all of us.
I love that. And when you said love more, love more, love more, and I in my thought mind, I'm like, well, what if they don't know what love is? How do they do that? But the fact is that it all starts with how we treat ourselves. Go
Yeah.
inside, love you.
Yeah.
Love you more, love you more, love you more. Because
Yeah.
if you love yourself more and set your boundaries, you're teaching yourself how you want other people to treat you. And this is the way you
Right.
want to be treated by them.
Exactly.
And then they're going to know how to treat you because that's the way you're going to treat them.
Right.
With more love.
And I think that love encompasses so many different things.
Mhm.
It's not just one thing.
Yes.
It's compassion, it's acceptance, it's allowance, it's peace, it's joy, it's all of these under the umbrella of feeling good. So do the things that help you feel better. Change the things that you say to yourself to help you feel better. Change the way that you engage with other people to help both of you feel better. Whatever is feeling better, that's more love.
Yes.
That's the energy of love.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I love that answer. Well, the thing is again, it's just coming back home to yourself.
Yeah.
Because if
remembrance.
If we treat ourselves the way we want to treat other people, then all we're going to be to everybody else is kind.
Mm-hmm.
The minimum is kind.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all, but don't have those negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't say anything nice, then just send out positive thoughts, wishing them well.
Mm-hmm.
And I may not agree with what everybody says, but I respect them as a human being.
Right.
I would hope that they would respect my opinions, whatever they might be.
Right. And a lot of times I think that when people are having bad days, because hurt people, mm-hmm. I tend to try to look at them as a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old having a temper tantrum, or lying on the floor crying their eyes out, or whatever the situation is. If we have more compassion for their little child who's struggling and doesn't know what to do, it's like, what would you do with a 3-year-old if they were doing that? You pick them up and you say, it's okay, honey. It's okay. This will all be over soon. And if you notice, when kids are expressing in their, roller coaster ride of emotions, they express it. And then 2 minutes later, they're running around, jumping and playing and having fun. And they don't remember any of that. So if we can look at ourselves and each other in that kind of way, mm-hmm. then we will feel more love and compassion for people. And it's just like, yeah, we all have that 3-year-old in us.
Well, I didn't do that. When I had a supervisor, for some reason, he just was very frustrated and he felt the need to dump on me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's yelling and screaming and I have no idea what's going on. I don't even know what he's upset about. And I said, excuse me, are you okay? And he's still ranting and raving because he's in that moment. Mm-hmm. And I said, somebody get me an AED because I'm not sure. Sir, are you okay? Is this a medical emergency? Are you okay? And he's still screaming. He's still in the moment. I said, no. So, okay, sir, do you need 911? Is this a medical emergency? And all of a sudden he snapped out. He goes, what? I said, sir, are you okay?
Oh,
he said, yes, I'm fine. And I said, you do this stuff in public to people?
Wow.
I wasn't as kind as you.
Well, and that's the same thing. I mean, you set up boundaries and you say, yeah, just go have your temper tantrum by yourself. I've done that plenty of times. Trust me.
Which he did. He went into the conference room and slammed the door. But the fact is that it was like, I don't know what you're doing. You're unloading and you think you can unload on me? Uh-huh. Dude, you're going to figure it out. I mean, I wasn't off base, but I tell everybody, because you have those supervisors in your world that just want to have a bad day and unload on the first person they think they can dump on.
Or a spouse, or a parent, or a friend, or a blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
But usually when you're at work, they do it out in front of everybody and their brother because they don't think about the moment and where they're at. So it's like, it's even doubly worse, I think.
Mm.
Or if they're out at dinner or whatever. See, that's why people like to meet out at dinner, because most people are conscientious of the
I was going to say, they're more concerned about what other people think
exactly
rather than how they're acting.
right.
Right.
And I agree. But the fact is he never did it again.
Mm. Good.
I agree. But I wasn't the first one he had done it to. I was just the last one
Uh,
that showed him how it wasn't going to
uh,
happen.
it was like that New Yorker attitude.
Well,
I ain't taking anybody's shit.
well, here's the thing is I married a New Yorker, but I'm from out west. But it's the Midwestern part in me that I just stand in my power. Unfortunately, I have had to stand in my power since I was 8.
Yeah.
So when you dealing with an 8-year-old with 2-year-old boundaries,
Right.
it's a tough sell. It's a tough nut to crack, and it's
Right.
absolutely, unless I want it, it's an absolute no.
Right.
And most people don't understand that. And that's what I try to help people get to. Because if you have your absolute no's, you'll never compromise yourself.
And you know what that is? That's love for yourself.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yep.
I love that, Dawn. I love that, Dawn.
I love you, Chris. I'm so honored that we're in the same spaces and you're doing such beautiful work out in the world. You've been through so many things. You're just this example of strength and security and stability and kindness in a way of helping people face themselves. And so I just honor your journey, and you are an amazing, beautiful light and soul and heart in this world. So grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But I have one more question. I ask this of all my guests. Take a deep breath in, close your eyes, and connect to your 5-year-old child. What would they say of you today versus where you were at 5?
What would she say today? She would say, Mom, she would say, Dawn, you need to dance more. You're not dancing enough. You're not dancing enough, which is true. I'm not dancing enough.
You have a lot of joy in that, don't you?
I do. I do. And she would say, you're following your heart. I'm super proud of you. And I'm super grateful that you continue to show up as who you really are. I feel like one of my best qualities is that I'm very open and very transparent. And I don't know any other way to be. It's funny because all my family, they're like, they say, oh yeah, what's really going on? Because we can read it all over your face.
Oh, and here I was at stone cold. You couldn't read my emotions if you had to, put a temperature in my mouth, a thermometer.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I'm so grateful, so thankful. I love you. I love your aura. I love your energy. And I'm just honored that you're here with me today.
Me too. Me too. And I reflect that all back to you, Chris, because I think we said on the other conversation, it's like we're all just mirrors for each other. And so the great qualities that you see in somebody else are the qualities that you also have in yourself. So whatever you appreciate in others, appreciate in yourself. So I really, really appreciate you, Chris. Thank you so much for having me here.
Hang on one second. It takes a special kind of individual to dream their thoughts, their ideas, and turn it into their reality. Dawn, you have done just that. Stepping past all the obstacles, the fears, you stayed the course, had the courage to follow through to the end. Dawn Rashard, you have championed yourself. Now we know who you've become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and your dreams and your energy with me today.